The Red River Farm Network is celebrating the role of women in agriculture. It is our series we call Agriculture. It is made possible by the good folks with the Minnesota Soybean Research and Promotion Council, Minnesota Corn Growers Association, Ag Country Farm Credit Services, and others. And our guest today, Andrea Vaubel, the Deputy Agriculture Commissioner in the great state of Minnesota. Andrea, first of all, a treat, pleasure to have a chance to sit down and connect with you and have you share your story.
Thank you so much, Don. It's always so fun to chat with you.
Let's talk about it. Where did you grow up? What kind of farm background did you have?
Yeah. So I am from our great neighbor, the state of Wisconsin, and you got to say it like that because that's, how we say it, or at least I do. So I grew up in a town called Verona, which is in Dane County, right outside Madison. And as I was mentioning to you, Don, it was a pretty small town when I was growing up there. I had there was a lot of dairy farms around us. We had a great FFA program. It was just a little bit more small town when I grew up. Now there's a big company that came in, and it's kind of exploded now. It's kind of a big city. But I grew up in Verona, and my dad and my grandpa, or I'm sorry, one of my grandpas was a dairy inspector for the state. And then my other grandpa and my dad ran a mill in a small town called Paoli, right outside Verona. And I ended up going to college at the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, beautiful part of the state. I went there to study history, and then I decided I was going to study French. And then I was taking all these political science classes, and my professor said, you could major in this. And I was like, yeah, but what can you do with a degree like that? She's like, you can do a lot. So I switched majors and I got a poli-sci degree and graduated and kind of did the political thing for a while. So I interned for then Congressman Ron Kind, who was Western Wisconsin. And actually then moved out to DC and did a couple of things and ended up working for then Congressman Tim Walz in his DC office. So that's really where I fell in love with ag policy, was because he was on the ag committee, represented southern Minnesota. It's absolutely God's country down there. It's just beautiful, and there's so much to do with agriculture. So that's really when I fell in love with ag.
And it really does. It gives you that ability to carry through those roots you had on the small town, rural Wisconsin. Be able to
Exactly.
take that into policy.
Exactly. Yes. And my dad would laugh because I just didn't think agriculture was that exciting growing up, but he loved it. It was around, I remember going into his office and there was like samples of cornmeal, and we'd be going to the UW Wisconsin Ag Library on Saturdays. And it was I just thought it was the most boring thing. And, obviously then I came to my senses, and he absolutely loved, that I was in agriculture, and made that my life's work. So I did come around, and he ended up being right.
So when Walls went from the congressional responsibilities to the governor's office, that's when you came to the ag department?
So I actually ended up coming to the ag department sooner than that. So I started under previous commissioner Dave Frederickson,
Okay.
under Governor Dayton. So I moved to Minnesota to work on then Congressman Walz's reelection campaign. And when it was over, I got a call from Dave Frederickson, and then at the time Matt Woolman was working here, who I knew because I worked with him in Walz's office. And they said, "Hey, come work with us at the ag department." And I expected to just stay here maybe, a year or two just to have some time to work with someone like Dave and Matt. But I just absolutely fell in love with the agency, and I've stayed ever since. So I started in 2013 here at the department. And then I had various roles, was Dave's assistant, then I did government affairs, and then assistant commissioner, and then deputy right before Walz was elected. And luckily, Tom Peterson was appointed commissioner and asked me to stay. And it's been the best job in the world.
Seems like a very good team.
Yes, yes, he is. I mean, for folks listening, if you don't know Tom Peterson, I'm sorry about that. You should get to know him. I'm surprised you don't because he knows everybody. But he is just an absolute dream boss, public servant, just advocate for agriculture. He is the real deal.
Yeah, he's been to every corner of the state
That's
multiple
right.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, what's a typical day like for you, Andrea?
Yeah. So, what's so cool about one of the things I love about agriculture is it sort of touches every facet of policy and our everyday lives. And so, no day is the same. And in my job, it's a lot of, I don't necessarily know what I'm going to be doing that day. It's a lot of kind of putting out fires, or, dealing with that, issue that we weren't expecting for the day. My role really is to basically run the agency. So I oversee the inner workings of the agency, like HR, finance, government affairs, communications, and then all of the two assistant commissioners that oversee our agency, our divisions. So, a lot of times I'm working on various issues. So I could be talking about, a trade mission we're going to be doing in a couple weeks and, the trade policy with Cuba that week, or it could be I'm talking about a tax issue with our beginning farmer tax credit and a decision that needs to be made there. Or maybe we're getting sued for something as an agency. So I'm talking with our legal counsel. Sometimes we're talking about, right now we're in legislative session. So that drives a lot of the schedule of what I'm doing. So today I'm going to be going to the House Ag Committee to talk about sustainable aviation fuel. And then oftentimes if Tom can't be at an event, he'll ask me to fill in. So sometimes like tomorrow, I'm going to be going up to Waite Park for an all day thing for women in ag. Sometimes I'm over at another agency's building talking about some sort of permitting issue. It just kind of depends on the day, which is why it's a fun job.
You like that diversity?
I do. I do. It keeps things really interesting, and it's never a dull moment, that's for sure.
Is there something about this position that people from the outside probably wouldn't realize it's a part of your job?
That's an excellent question. I think people would be surprised by how much, I guess, how much diversity there is. So, with the, we have the things that happen in agriculture, but, as you know, and your listeners know very well, it's, agriculture and rural communities and everything touches all things. So any day I might be talking about transportation or taxes or, rural mental health or something that, most people don't actually attribute to agriculture, but is incredibly important to the work that our agricultural community and Minnesotans as a whole work on and care about. So I think people would be surprised by how much we sort of dive into these other issue areas that most don't attribute to agriculture.
With this series, we're putting a focus on women in agriculture, and I'm curious, what recommendations would you give to someone that maybe wants to step up their involvement, maybe in a farm organization or some other leadership role?
Yes. I have to say, we have just, I'm maybe biased. I think Minnesota farmers and particularly women in agriculture in Minnesota are the best. There's just incredible leaders all across the state. I think I would say that certainly there's always this sort of fear that, you're not maybe good enough or you're not ready. I always urge people to just go for it, that you often know more than you think that you know. You often know more than most people in the room. And so really, have the confidence in yourself about the knowledge and background and talent that you bring. And also to just be authentic. I think sometimes people feel like they have to be a certain way or act a certain way to be a good leader. And I think the best leaders, at least that I've been able to be a part of or learn from are those who are just very true to themselves and honest and sincere in the work that they do. So I just tell people to be yourself and go for it, even if you're scared.
You talk about leaders. Who are some of those leaders that maybe are role models for you and that you've looked up throughout your career?
Yes. Well, we are very blessed in Minnesota with some incredible leadership. I mean, I talked about Tom Peterson, Dave Fredrickson are just two folks that I just am incredibly grateful for and have had the honor of working with and alongside. I love Angie Craig Tina Smith, Amy Klobuchar, they are just incredible leaders. There's a fantastic farmer named Naima up near St. Cloud. I think she's just rocking it. Bev Durgan at Extension, I just think the world of her, and I've gotten the honor to travel with her on a few trade missions, and she just really gets it, and I love her approach to this work. And of course, my very good friend Whitney Place, our former FSA state director, and I got to work with her here at the department, and now she's at Extension as well. But we just have some really incredible leaders in so many spaces in ag. So everywhere I look, I see somebody I admire.
You mentioned Angie Craig and Amy Klobuchar. It's such a unique situation that we have with the both ranking positions coming from Minnesota, let alone coming from one region of the country, but both from Minnesota. It's extremely rare.
It's awesome. We're absolutely thrilled and tickled that's the opportunity we have for Minnesota. And even right now, it's just been really great with sort of things happening at the federal level and things changing really quickly. We've got a good relationship with their office, and they care a lot about what happens in Minnesota. So it's been really cool to have them in that spot and have committee staff and have these really cool people, brilliant minds working on ag policy that affects everyone, but Minnesota too.
Oftentimes, I think agriculture is misunderstood by the general public. What can we do to change that? How do we make that story more important, that higher profile?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings about agriculture, just in general. I think I've been really impressed by how people within agriculture statewide in Minnesota have really tried to push that story and talk about what it is like for them day to day. There's an incredible person, Brenda Rudolph, who has a blog, Raising a Farmer, who she talks about what this is like and what it means for her everyday life. I think it really is about getting in those channels that people read and listen and talk to, and making the case about what it is that you do every day and why it matters. Because I think people have a misunderstanding about what goes into the food that comes at the grocery store, and the sacrifices and the incredible amount of talent and expertise it takes to be a farmer and grow the safest food in the globe, and be able to feed others around the world. So it really is about telling our story, and I know I hear people say that a lot, but I think it has to come from all levels of agriculture, and sort of get in those spaces that we're not always in.
Indeed. Any advice you'd give for other women in agriculture?
I think kind of what I already mentioned. I think sometimes women feel, I always joke that like there might be a job that, they think, well, I don't fit, all 12 of the requirements, so I'm not even going to apply. Whereas a lot of times I say, well, a lot of guys will say, well, I fit like 2 or 3 of these, so I'm going to put my name in the ring. So I'm always saying, if you, just try, if there's a job that you're interested in, or a position or something that you want to go after that you think that, you might have some interest in, I'd say go for it. And again, to be sincere and authentic to yourself, because I think more and more that sometimes gets lost. And we're all human beings with hopes and dreams and fears and worries. And, it's important to just be true to yourself and be the human being that you are. So I just urge people to just maintain that and keep that as your guiding star for your whole leadership journey.
I love that. Any final thoughts for us? I really appreciate you joining us, Andrea.
No, I just appreciate everything you do, Don. I just think the world of women in agriculture, Minnesota in general, it's a great place to be. It's the greatest state in the nation. And I, say that as a Wisconsinite, although we do have a better football team. But it's great to be here, and I really appreciate all you do, Don.
Thank you so much. Andrea Vaubel with us, Deputy Commissioner of Agriculture in Minnesota, and that is our special series, Agriculture. You'll be seeing updates throughout this month of March. Again, thanks to all of our sponsors for making this possible. Have a great day.